National Governors Association. I'm joined by the Vice Chair, the Honorable Governor of the great state of Colorado, Jared Polis. We've had a very productive morning already. We had a meeting, a breakfast meeting with all of the governors. We've got about 43 governors from the states and territories who are here with us during these few days. And we'll be talking about the issues that are most important to all of our states. The NGA is a bipartisan organization. We always have a Republican and a Democrat in leadership. We rotate the chairmanship, and we're going to be focusing on, again, those issues that are so important. We've had a productive meeting this morning with the President and Vice President, as well as members of the Cabinet and senior leadership teams who were there to answer questions. We talked about lots of different issues. The biggest issue was around immigration. A huge focus on that issue, something again that is receiving bipartisan support. The need to secure the border. We have Democrats and Republicans that are in agreement, large agreement on the need for additional work there. We talked about a few other topics as well, and we'll be happy to take some questions in just a moment. But I'd like to introduce my Vice Chair, Governor Jared Polis.
Thank you, Governor Jared Polis of Colorado, Vice Chair of the National Governors Association. I want to thank Governor Cox, as well as the approximately 40 governors that were with us here today. I think that it's important that the voice of governors is heard by different members of the White House team, and really interactions with many members of the Cabinet, as well as with the President and the Vice President, really sought to elevate the concerns that we face in the field every day, whether it's implementing and investing the resources in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, whether it's a challenge we face with immigration, which we know need a federal solution, a national solution, and the President and the Secretary of New York has talked about some of their plans in that area, or whether it's the discussion Governor Cox and I had with the President about Disagree Better, and the initiative that Governor Cox is spearheading about how we can elevate the way that we disagree and make sure that we're constructive in doing that. And the President really addressed that in his remarks as well, expressed a strong willingness to work with Republicans, Democrats to get things done, from building our infrastructure to securing the border, to making sure that America's place in the world protecting freedom and democracy is stronger now and in the future. With that, we're happy to take some questions.
What did the White House tell you about any sort of unilateral or executive action the President might take on immigration, and what did you tell them in response?
Sure. So obviously this is one area where there is some disagreement. The President did not give us any insight into any executive action that he might be taking. He did say that he has been working with his attorneys, trying to understand what executive action would be upheld in the courts and would be constitutional, and that he seemed a little frustrated that he was not getting answers from attorneys that felt he could take the kind of actions that he wanted to. But that's really the extent of of kind of the direction that he gave us.
Yeah, he indicated that they're actively looking into these, but what he brought it back to, and I think we as governors get this, we don't have the power of the purse our legislators do. He reiterated, we need more Border Patrol agents, we need more judges. I mean, this backlog doesn't solve itself. There's no, as far as I know, there's no executive way to do that when you need more Border Patrol and people on the ground. And so that was, of course, part of the bipartisan border security package. If there's a way to separately fund Border Patrol, I think they're very open to that. But we did get a general sense that they're looking into whatever they can do on the executive side. Again, keeping our expectations realistic, that's going to be more limited than a congressional solution.
Governor, what's the financial stress on your states because of the immigration that you guys are feeling, and what's the frustration level?
Yeah, so I would say the frustration level is very high with every single governor in that room. It doesn't matter if you're a border state. We're all border states now. There's no question. The financial strain is definitely taking a toll on all of us, and that's a very bipartisan message. We were hearing it from Democrats. We're hearing it from Republicans, and I will say that's a change over, kind of a sea change over the past couple years for sure. It gives us, I think, a modicum of hope, at least, that there is this growing bipartisan consensus. One of the challenges we face, governors, we do things. We get stuff done. We're very proud of that. We solve problems. This is a problem that governors can't solve, although we're trying as much as we can. This really is on the federal government. There's some disagreement on how much the president can do and can't do, and I push back on the president on that. But I think there's also general consensus that the Congress does have to do something. Again, the Congress does have funding. We know that we do need more Border Patrol agents. I think there's consensus amongst that. Hopefully that can get rolled into some of the budget deals that are, hopefully we can keep the government open in March. That's a great first step, Congress. Let's do that. And then if we can roll some of these things into that, if we can't get a comprehensive bill done, can we at least do that portion? And I think you would find fairly broad support for at least getting those funding pieces done.
What are you asking from the president on the border and immigration?
Yeah, so what everybody's asking, I mean, we're asking to engage. I think that there is more that the president can do on the border to make that, to enforce the laws that are already on the books. Again, there's disagreement here. We've a bunch of governors. We were able to go down to Texas and see places where 3,000 to 5,000 people were crossing a day, where now 3 to 5 people were attempting to cross a day. So we know that some of that can be done, but I will also stipulate that we have major problems around asylum, and this is one of the issues that I think I'm not sure that the media has conveyed in a way that most Americans understand. 75% according to the president's team today, 80% according to some members of the Senate that have talked to us, of people who cross over and claim asylum ultimately don't qualify for asylum and get sent back. The problem is that takes 5 to 6 to 7 years to process that. If we could elevate at the border that process immediately, we could, 75% of those people would turn around and go home. They would have no other choice. So I know that's a frustration with the administration. It's a frustration with Congress. Whether or not he can do that via executive order or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think that's more frustration with the current law, and that's why a lot of the bipartisan negotiations are how do we eliminate some of these frivolous asylum claims on the front end, which aren't going to be granted anyway, but they clog up the system for those who do have a legitimate asylum claim, who, by the way, we're a state that has 1.8 job openings for every unemployed person. So if you have your work permit and you got it legally, we want you, we need you, right? Bring the skills you have. What we don't want is people who don't qualify clogging up that system and causing 6-7 year delays for those who have legitimate legal ability to be here. So that's really been a focus of the discussion between Republicans and Democrats in Congress. Those asylum reforms would be a big plus in discouraging people to come here who don't have a claim, but it also making sure that those who do have a pathway and get legal can do it quicker so they can contribute to our economy and success.
Governor, I'd like to ask.
Go here.
Yeah, governors, thank you so much for taking our questions. I'm curious if the issue of IVF came up during your meetings, and if there are any concerns that you two may have about it extending beyond the outline.
It didn't come up.
It did not. Yeah.
Either one of you could take this, or both of you would even be better. Inflation still very strong in the U.S. Folks everywhere are getting hammered at the grocery store specifically. I'm sure in your states as well. Do you believe this administration is doing enough to bring inflation down?
So we had a discussion, Governor Cox and I, with the vice president, and encouraged them to pursue a more aggressive and bold trade agenda, including the Indo-Pacific Partnership, the European Partnership, and Taiwan. I think that if we can reduce market barriers and tariffs, it can have a major role in reducing the inflation that consumers are facing in our country.
Specifically grocery prices, sir. You know when you go into the grocery, have you been to a grocery store lately? I'm sure you have.
Of
right?
course, yeah.
What product at the store makes you go, oh my gosh, this is too much?
Well, I mean, we've seen a big decrease recently in egg prices. We had a crisis last summer. They've come down to the norm. So I mean, it's going to be regional too. So in Colorado, our grocery stores might be different than other areas. But I think in general, if you talk about food supply, again, reducing tariffs, improving trade, and supporting our farmers and ranchers, which we in Colorado are doing and have a number of ways. Like a lot of sectors, they're facing labor shortages. That's the number one thing I hear when I talk to farmers and ranchers. 2 possible solutions to that. One is in the realm we talked about, people that have legal permission to come here and work, who have experience working on farms and ranches in other countries. We need them, we want them, whether it's seasonal, whether it's year-round. The second is grow our own talent, and we in Colorado have a paid apprenticeship program for farmers and producing ranchers, where people can earn and learn at the same time, getting young people out onto the land and being able to support themselves where they get the skills they need to be in production agriculture for their careers.
Thank you. I think I share the concern. Prices are too high. We did have that conversation. We need to, not just at the grocery store, but in lots of other places as well, but certainly in the grocery store. We've been working as a state of Utah with the Department of Agriculture on more food processing. I'm worried about food security as well. We saw that during COVID. Too much of our food is coming from other places and other countries, and we need to bring some of that home as well.
Did you guys talk about the affordable broadband program? 23 millions
We did not talk directly about it, but
yeah,
go
we
ahead.
talked indirect. So we first of all thanked the president for the work on the bipartisan infrastructure package and the Jobs Act. Then we did discuss some of the permitting processes and the president's efforts to reform those. There were some in the last spending passage. The president expressed his commitment to continue working on permitting reform to reduce delays in paperwork associated with infrastructure investments such as broadband.
And I want to thank Governor Polis. He brought this up directly with the president. This is a huge concern for us. It has been for a long time that we don't build stuff anymore, and it takes far too long to build the things that we know we need to build, even things that will make our environment clean. The very laws that were put in place to clean our environment are making it impossible to do the things that would actually make our environment cleaner. We can't. Solar projects, wind projects, all of those things. The delays, it can take 5 to 7 years just to get permits, and so permitting reform is absolutely crucial for everything we're trying to accomplish, and we've got to do better at that. There has been some progress made, but we need a lot more to go, and I was grateful that my colleague brought that up.
Governor, so go back to you mentioned the president was frustrated by his lawyers and his inability to do some executive action. Did he provide any sense of what his lawyers are telling him he can't do, or what he might be looking to do if his lawyers gave him permission?
Well, I think it was more generally, and I don't want to get his lawyers in trouble. I want to say that, kind of frustrated with the state of the law. What could he mentioned the ability to declare a kind of declare an emergency at the border. What would that look like? Could he do something like that? But it was just kind of a general reframe when pushing back on you need to do more, and him saying my attorneys tell me I can't do more. That was kind of the back and forth.
And I think he cited their actions of the previous administration in this area that had already been overturned, and so there was a frustration that would occur under his leadership as well. Under any president, absent a change in the law, a lot of the steps we need to take simply aren't legal under current law.
One more question?
Yeah, one more. Back the $34 trillion national debt. There are reports that it could be $50 billion in 10 years from now. How big of a concern is that for you as you lead your state?
Well, I'd love it to be $50 billion. I think you meant trillion.
Trillion, sorry.
No, that's okay. It's a huge concern. I think it's something that every American should be worried about. Just our debt payments right now are extraordinary and growing quickly. It's frustrating. Again, that's something that Congress doesn't seem interested in touching. They hold the purse strings. Presidents obviously play a role in this, but we need Congress to look at where we're spending the most money, and it turns out we're spending the most money on entitlements, and entitlements are the things Americans don't want to touch. And so I think it's dangerous. I think we're headed in a very difficult and bad direction. But hopefully somebody will be courageous and take that on at some point.
And I think the nation should look to the states. We balance our budget in Colorado. Utah balances our budget. We have a required balanced budget. And I think there's a lot of examples of how states can meet their priorities for their most vulnerable citizens and are able to do it with a balanced budget year after year. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.